Hi, this is Tim Lightfellow again in the Kingdom of Vontier, the Society for Creative Anachronism. Today's video was a request from someone a while ago to do a video about crossbow shooting tips. I think that the person who requested it is in a region where there really aren't other crossbow shooters, and so hopefully I can explain things clearly enough that it is helpful. I shoot standing up, so the tips I'm giving are specific to shooting from a standing position. Some of them will apply to seated shooting, um, but you might have to adapt how you do them a little bit, but the concepts are the same, like having your arm anchored and things. It's just that that may look different when you're sitting down. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I do is similar to hand bow. I keep my feet about shoulder width apart. I make sure not to lock my knees. So basically from the waist down, it stays just like hand bow does. The one exception at times is that every once in a while my target range foot, I'll notice that I'll kick it out just a little, maybe a 20-degree angle or something. And that just, I feel like I'm just a little more stable that way. But as long as I'm not moving it around every shot, then it has no effect on consistency. One thing I recommend right from the start, if you're kind of new to crossbow, is if you're going to do standing and you're going to do stirrup cocking, which is how I do it, get used to using your off-range foot. I don't know about other kingdoms, but here in Ontario, if you use your on-range foot and you find yourself then leaning forward on towards the targets to pull the string up, someone could call a hold on you because you're effectively potentially putting your head in front of the next person's bow at full draw. So it's considered a safety issue here. So just get used to doing it with your off-range foot, and it'll make things a lot easier and you won't have to worry about that. Okay, so from the waist up, my torso, I generally start out again like I would with hand bow. If I were shooting hand bow, I'd be shoulders pointing in a line towards the target. The crossbow I shoot is designed to go into the shoulder. There are some that are designed to kind of like hook on the shoulder, and so for those you tend to stand more facing the target directly and leaning. For me, again, I stand like this and I bring it into the shoulder. And so from this stance of hand bow, I turn my shoulders so that I can bring the back of the crossbow into my shoulder. One of the key things is making sure that the crossbow goes into the same spot every time. If it goes a little higher, a little lower, or off to one side or the other, you completely change where you're aiming. The next thing then, if you can, I think that the lighting is good enough to see this, you'll notice that my bow arm, I'm actually tucking it against my body. And that's to use it as an anchor, because if I have it loose, I can put it anywhere and it may feel right, but it just a slight bit off and it changes the angle on the crossbow, which is going to affect shots. So by anchoring it, I can make sure that I'm more consistent when I'm shooting. From that arm going up, next thing is the grip on the crossbow. For me, on this particular one, I actually put my finger up against this natural stop here at the front of the crossbow, and then I put 3 fingers on this side and thumb on this side. On my other crossbows, it's 4 fingers on this side and thumb on this side because they don't have this hard edge. They have more of a curved sloping thing, so it doesn't really work for that. Now the fingers, what I'm doing is I'm not just holding the fingers loose against the crossbow, I'm putting the fingertips against it. So what that's going to do for me is that's going to help prevent the crossbow from rocking when I pull the trigger. A lot of crossbow shooters do what you would refer to as a slow squeeze, like a lot of rifle shooters use. With my neck issues and that, I can't really do that. And so I have to do kind of a quick trigger pull, and that tends to cause more opportunity to rock the crossbow body. So what I do is I actually put these fingers down low and the thumb is up higher. And what that does is when I do this, it wants to do this, but by having those in place, it prevents that. Let's see, so trigger pull, where the hand is. The next thing is for shooting, you want the prod to be as level as you can get. Sometimes, depending on the prod itself, some of them are kind of severely V-shaped, so it's harder to tell. But if the prod itself is fairly flat, you could look maybe at the bottom of the target butt first. If you're looking downrange, look at the bottom of the target butt, see if it seems like it's level, and then move it to your aim point. I've done that in the past. Once you've shot a fair amount of time with a particular crossbow and prod, you kind of get used to it. But for that initial adjusting to it and double checking, that works well. And even if it's like a tripod stand, you could use where the two legs meet, hit the ground, and make sure that that's lining up on either side of the deck of the crossbow. Now, one thing I will say is for a while I used to shoot, and the way I held the crossbow at the time, it always ended up tilted slightly to the right. And as long as you're consistent with it, you can do that. It's going to affect the flight. It's going to kick off to the right a bit. But it's kind of hard to do it the exact same way every time, kind of like when you cant a bow. It's kind of hard to make sure you always have your arm at that exact same angle every shot. So if you can, trying to have it up nice and level is going to help, especially if you start getting into doing longer distance shoots like Yorks and that, where you're trying to shoot it as straight as you possibly can, and that bit of angle to the right or left can really, over 100 yards, make a huge difference left and right. Okay. The last thing then, we've gone over how I hold the crossbow. And one safety tip is with the way you grab it, don't stick your fingers up, because I can tell you from lots of first-hand experience that the fingers getting struck by the crossbow string hurts quite a lot. So make sure they are down below where the string is going to go across. Okay, now aiming. I don't use a rear sight, so I am literally using the tip of the crossbow bolt. As such, what you'll notice is that my crossbow bolts, other than the one that's got a replacement tip, are the same length. Making my own, it makes it easy to make sure of that. So by having them the same length, that keeps my aim point the same for each shot. Whereas again, with the one that's got a shorter tip, I'm going to have to aim down a little lower in the grass for it to actually be shooting at the same trajectory as the others. So what I would do is, and for me, this is about a 95-pound prod. And so, frankly, I'm at about 19 yards here. If I took a step or two back, I'd be at 20. So at about 19 yards, I'm down in the grass in front of the target, but then it's also not a normal target. But what you can do with your aim is you pick a spot, you see where it hits. From there, if you're doing everything consistently, you can adjust left or right and up or down, and you can bring yourself in towards the center by modifying your aim point. One thing that I've noticed over the years, a couple of things, just general shooting tips fast, is when I started in crossbow, like my aim point might be the bottom left corner of the target, and now it might be the bottom left where the blue and the black join. So as I've gotten more comfortable and more knowledgeable with my crossbow and how it shoots, I've been able to shrink down the aim point area to allow me to be more consistent with where I'm hitting. Because if it's bottom left in the blue, that's a lot of territory that you can put the tip in and you're bottom left in the blue. If it's bottom left, just inside the center of the blue line, if you have one of the targets where it's split, then you're narrowing it down and you're making your aim point smaller, and you should be then making your grouping smaller if everything goes well. The other tip I would offer for any archer is something that we often hear about, and I worked on. I literally told myself this every shot for probably over a year before I really believed it and it became a part of how I shoot. And that's the concept that the last shot doesn't matter, the next shot doesn't matter. This shot is the shot that matters. Focus on what you're doing on this shot. The only information I get off the previous shot was the aim point good or was the aim point not good. Where it landed, if you get upset about that, it unfortunately tends to carry over and mess up your next shot or 2 shots or 5 shots, or whole day if you were really right on the verge of that score you wanted and you messed up a shot, and it can really cause frustration. So remember, when you're shooting, the only shot that matters is the current shot. The last one's done, you can't change it. So hopefully that helps some people. I'm going to now take off the headset and I will do a few shots to demonstrate. It is a bit foggy and cold, so I'm shaking just a little, and we'll see how this goes. But I will make an attempt to do a few shots just so you can kind of see in practice what I'm doing. The one thing the camera doesn't show is me hooking the stirrup of the crossbow on my foot and pulling it up. There are 2 methods of doing that. There's using your arms to pull the string, and there's using your back to pull the string. I actually use my arms. With the neck fusion, my back isn't so strong. So I use my arms to pull the string up, which brings up one other quick tip, is that some people will mark the center of the string so they make sure it's actually staying center when they pull it up, because it is possible to pull it unevenly, and that'll affect the way that shot goes as well. Another little tip. Okay, so I'm going to take the headset off and then I will demonstrate a few shots with my crossbow. Okay, there you go. There's a demo of one end of shooting, which looks like 2 in the inner gold and 2 in the rest in the outer gold, maybe 3 and 3. So that's a demonstration. The second to last shot, I don't know if it will show on the video, but I rushed just a little and I didn't set on my aim point. And so it landed in what would be red or maybe just into gold off to the side because I wasn't quite set on my aim point. I was a little bit off and shot it accidentally, hurriedly. So try not to do that. Hope this helps anyone who is doing crossbow archery, and have a good day. Thank you for watching.